We are actively in search of all volunteers in Michigan who go above and beyond anything for election reform and integrity. If you know of somebody who fits that description, please nominate them for the Michigan All-Stars recognition, and we'll have one at the end of this meeting that they deserve for their efforts. If you do have that, please submit your nominations to Allison Nicolai of Allison Nicolai at msn.com with the subject line Michigan All-Stars nominee. Include your name and county in the message. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Jeff, for the announcement. And thank you so much for joining. I see lots of people are coming in and lots of people have been here. Sometimes we meet a little bit early, so it's nice to see people coming in throughout. And we've had it seems like every week seems to go faster with more and more information. And the faster we go, the faster things are coming in. But it's been a very exciting time for Michigan Fair Elections as the executive order of the president preserving and protecting integrity in America's elections incorporated a significant number of our recommendations. So we're still just glowing and basking in that. And we're also then trying to figure out now the work is going to begin, because now we need to be sure that these executive orders, which correspond with law, by the way, are enforced in Michigan and implemented. That will become our priority going forward. And actually it's already been, since those have been our priorities to begin with. So thank you for joining. And I'm real pleased to start us off today with Eileen McNeil. As you know, she's president of the Citizens for Traditional Values, and they have an upcoming event, which I'm pleased to have been invited to speak at. So Eileen, you want to tell us something about your Go Local event? I know you're here. Can you hear? We can't hear you just yet, though, Eileen. Uh-oh.
There, sorry.
Okay.
Thank you, Patrice. We are thrilled to have you speaking about election integrity and all of the changes that have been made as part of our Go Local Community Influencer Conference. We did one in Macomb County, as you all know, in March. We're doing this one coming up. Everyone put it down on your calendar. If you're in the west side of Michigan at all, May 17th from 9 to 5, Saturday, May 17th, 9 to 5. We do provide food, so it's you're not going to starve, and lots of information. Really, our goal is twofold. It's to help really train and give you the practical tools of servant statesmanship if you already are a local official, and maybe you're serving on a school board, a township trustee, a county commission board, a library board. And this is really to give you real practical tools on perhaps you're maybe the only conservative on that board too, maybe. And how do you then how do you have good governance on that board, even when people don't agree with you? How do you woo people to your side, to your point of view? What are the like 7 key principles of good governance, and how do you achieve that? And to ultimately make good policy. And the other part of this, and this is also why we have Patrice on, is to talk about election integrity. And I do a session on communications and how do we message to our constituents and to others about the issues we care about, as well as the media. I have a short media training that's involved in it. But we also want people to come who maybe aren't in office, but are thinking about it. You need the confidence. You're not sure. You're a precinct delegate and you're thinking, maybe I should run for one of these offices. We need you in local offices. We need to create that bench. And it becomes so important to this organization, Patrice, right? As you're looking for people to serve as election inspectors, and then maybe they go on and they actually, because of their work and as an election inspector, your local board wants you to serve on the board there. and they see your good work. They see how you communicate. And so this is a really a conference in many ways to give you the tools, practical tools. And also we do it in conjunction with William Wagner, who's with Salt and Light Global. I think many of you know him. And he talks a lot about the idea of our limited government. Where do you get your authority from? And what does the Michigan Constitution say as opposed to the US Constitution? And where do you plug into? It's important to know what is your authority and when. So just want to encourage you all to come. Thanks so much, Patrice, for letting me share this. You see the flyer up there on the screen. And if you can just hit that button, you can easily register on our website, ctvmichigan.org. So thank you, Patrice.
Thank you, Eileen.
Saturday, May 17th.
Thank you, Eileen. And that brings up a good question, actually, that I think we should all think about. Why is it so many of these boards are a minority of the membership of those boards would be conservative thinkers or traditional thinkers? That's not reflective of the overall population, as the popular vote just went and showed people. We are not a small minority. We are more than half the country. So we should be more than half of all these boards. And it falls on our shoulders to step forward and do that, since we've probably been distracted. A lot of us are very independent thinkers, probably didn't want to get involved in politics. And now we've learned a really tough lesson. If we don't get involved, other folks whom we won't be so happy with are more than happy to get involved.
Absolutely. And while it's very, a lot of the loud speakers are around national issues and some of the state issues, but what impacts you most in your everyday life? It's the local boards. It's when you're sending your kids to a school board and you realize, hey, wait a minute, what the heck are they teaching? I don't like this. And then you find yourself, in front of a school board that's very anti your position. Well, we need to have a few more people like ourselves on those boards. And it's a great bench for if you want to go and make an impact later. But having an impact locally is so important.
There was a good line in biblical citizenship, and I'll probably butcher it a little bit, but it says, if you send your children to Caesar, don't be surprised if they come back Romans. And I think that's a really good point.
Yeah.
Obviously, it's an old quote.
Yeah. And even for those of you who live in maybe more rural areas and they're talking about putting up entire solar wind farms, etc. I mean, you may not have known, but last year, the state of Michigan took away a lot of local control. The local township boards used to be able to vote on whether they allowed a percentage of their electricity to come from wind and solar, et cetera. And all that has been usurped. I mean, that's why next year's elections are going to be so important in so many ways. But we need good people on these township boards. I mean, you guys saw what happened up north in Mecosta County. I mean, they stared down the Chinese government and the Michigan government, and it is successful so far. I mean, they're not done, but kudos to that board. So just we want to make sure you're covered, that you can gain confidence, that you have the tools, and bring somebody with you who's maybe thinking about it and just needs confidence to run.
Thank you. Thanks, Eileen. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you.
So Christine Christlieb has been running our communications, and she just does a marvelous job. Christine, I think you're here. You want to give us a report from the communications committee? Not hearing you, Christine.
So, thank you, Patrice. So I don't do this very often, but today I'm going to direct your attention to an article that I wrote that was posted yesterday. And the title of the article is, hold on, the title of the article is Benson Staff Scrambles to Count Michigan's Non-Citizen Voters. Now, I'm bringing this article to your attention for a couple of reasons. First of all, it's about non-citizens voting. And of course, that's very important to election integrity. And it's part of the SAVE Act. And, you know, it's part of what Brian Posthumus is trying to address and so on. So it's very important. What we learn, or what I mentioned in our article, is that it's clear our Department of State, the data on non-citizens voting is not accessible, not just to the public, it's not accessible to them at all. It's not accessible, readily accessible to them either. So for example, when Jocelyn Benson on September 11th of 2024, when she testified before the House Committee on Administration that there was no evidence of non-citizens voting, and that if they were, it would be easy to prove because vote records are accessible to the public. All three of those things were extremely misleading. And so now allow me to just say why we're only able to report that because of FOIA records. We know this information. We know that they are struggling with this data because someone requested her text records via FOIA. So FOIA is extremely important to us, important to our organization, and we need to be vigilant in protecting FOIA. But the other thing I want to say is that article is written on the shoulders of other journalists. I would not have written that if it hadn't been for some reporting that was done by James Dixon, and I believe her first name is Anna Hoffman. Those two journalists did a great job of reporting on those text messages and analyzing what was happening there. And one of the things that we are doing here at Michigan Fair Elections is we are promoting journalists, not just our stuff, but we're promoting other journalists, and we are helping to build a network of journalists who are actually looking into these matters, actually requesting via FOIA the text messages and analyzing it. And so that's why that's one of the reasons that Patrice has been featuring journalists on our news at noon, so that you will become familiar with this network of this growing network of journalists who are working on this topic. So I just wanted to point all of that out, especially and I also want to mention, the important work, obviously, that Tim Vetter and his team, the DEEP team, are doing, helping to expose the obvious glaring problems with data at the Department of State. It's just in disarray. Then the final thing I want to mention, a very good news, is that we are working on a major overhaul of MFE's website, and we hope to go live on that mid-May. So that is upcoming, and that's actually all I have, Patrice.
Well, you go right through things quickly, so thank you, and appreciate it. And that is a very good point about including lots of quality reporters in our network, because good writing needs to be recognized, and investigative writing that's honest and deep is few and far between. So thank you. And I also wanted to mention that FOIA isn't just important that's the Freedom of Information Act, which is a federal law, by the way. That's not just important to us, it's important to every citizen in this country, because it was designed to enable our citizens to self-govern. And if without transparency, without FOIA, we have tyranny. Because people in government start thinking suddenly that they know better than everybody else. It's a sickness that happens to a lot of folks, I think. So anyway, we all need to rabidly defend FOIA. So thank you for bringing that up, Kristine. Thank you. Yeah, next up is Isaac. Isaac's here to report to us on how the Souls the Rolls program is going and some new developments there. So go ahead, Isaac, take it away.
All right. Let me just go ahead and share. I've got a few slides today. All right. There we go. Okay. So I've been working with Tim Vetter and Phani Mantravadi of Check My Vote in order to create a data pipeline. The purpose of this is to give us the ability to analyze how Souls to Rolls has been verifying registrations, checking out registrations, doing digital research and canvassing, and then sending registrations to the clerks for review. Now, sometimes we get these registrations back and we find that they are legitimate registrations, and then we go ahead and we log that and tally it up. Other times, our research was correct and the clerk ends up removing the respective registrations from the QVF. This is one of our primary ways that we just gradually clean up the QVF and remove some of the old registrations that really shouldn't be on there. And there's many reasons why invalid registrations are still on the QVF. So right here, I'm going to go over some of the initial data analysis that we've been doing on Check My Vote's data, just get a sense for kind of how much progress we've made so far. All right. So, I skipped the slide. There we go. Here is the histogram of data over time, the registrations that we flagged for review. Now, I should preface this. This list is somewhat incomplete and it will grow. These numbers are actually not the complete numbers because not all of the data is quite available just yet. But with the data that I have, this set of values overall shows us essentially how many flags were created or updated within each range of time. It goes as far back as 2023, and it shows us that throughout the past several years, clearly we've had a very huge concentration within 2024, within the gubernatorial election. That makes sense. And then it actually also shows us that our progress this year is higher, especially for an off-election year, than our previous years. So the program has been steadily growing, but of course is much more active in the presidential election years. Now, concentrating this data to this year, we can see that there are specific dates where we are most active on Check My Vote, flagging and updating flags for suspicious registrations. This stretches from January up until about yesterday's data, and we see that there are spikes. There are specific days where the digital research is concentrated in. Now, what's encouraging about this is that we can see that in short periods of time, we're actually able to perform several hundred updates when our volunteers are very, very active. I should mention that much of this research is done by specific teams. So many of the spikes you see here are teams from particular counties being very, very active. Now, going back a slide real quick, the huge spike you see here, I believe, represents actually the day when Phani implemented the national change of address data and integrated that into Check My Vote, which created a large number of automated flags highlighting all the number of people who have moved out of the state, but still have registrations included in the QVF. Now, moving on, this is the data we have for April. So we can see that basically per day, there are a certain number of flags either created or updated. And that number, although I don't have the average computed here, we see that on days where volunteers are active, we can reach anywhere up to around 126 updates. And then on lower off days, it can be somewhere around something like 15 updates. These numbers, for anybody who needs a little more context for these numbers, that essentially means that we have digital researchers who are looking over this many registrations on a given day. Now, to fill in some of the gaps that this data isn't quite helping with yet, let me go ahead and put this into numbers. So the total number of registrations that we've looked at over the course of this data being tracked is 144,000. And the total number, the very important number down here at the bottom, is that we have achieved the removal of 76,274 registrations via our flagging program.
That's
Now,
fabulous. In
between these numbers, we've got a few that are at different stages in the process. We've got 11,000 that we found we've verified through our own independent research. We've got 35 that are still under review, meaning we don't have enough information to conclusively send them to the clerks yet. And then we have 14,000 here that have been sent to the clerks. And although I don't have the information to show the distribution of how long the clerks have had these registrations, I imagine it in particular counties and jurisdictions. Many of these registrations were sent to the clerks a long time ago. And that information, once we do the analysis, will help us direct our clerk advocates to encourage the clerks to really go over the information we send them. So overall, that's the data I have. Technically, I've got a couple of Excel spreadsheets I could go over, but I think that information is a little bit too densely packed and it's a little hard to explain as well. So I'm going to go ahead and stop there. If anyone has any questions, feel free.
Well, I would just like to say thank you. Thank you for tracking this information. This is fabulous information for us to have. And this way we can see when our hits and our misses, and we can see, for example, what happens to these people that are flagged. Are they sent absentee ballots, for example? We need to know that. So thank you, Isaac. And also, anybody that wants to participate in Souls the Rules, put your name in the chat, and Isaac will certainly get you on a team and get you involved. So thank you. Thank you. Great job, Isaac. Jeff.
Quick question.
Yes.
Quick question. I'm sorry. Yeah, sorry. Isaac, yeah, that's great data. So exciting to see that. I put a question in the chat and maybe I know the answer to this already and just need a refresher. What are we doing to recheck those registrations that we are being told have been removed? So, because I've heard things, I just heard something recently from, I don't remember where or when, but just recently that a few months later, they popped back on the rolls.
I'll need to get back to you about that one. I'll need to talk with Phani to see if reappearing registrations are kind of detected by the system. But that's probably a bit of a longer conversation. So I'll go ahead and talk to Phani and get back to you with the answer on that.
Sure. Yeah. Thank you so much.
Yeah, that would be a really good thing to verify because we do hear that a lot, and I'd like to know whether we can substantiate it with data. So thank you. That's a good question, Sheree. Thank you. Okay, Jeff, give us an update on the overlap between is that what you're going to talk about? Actually, it's not an overlap on the executive order. It's on something else that our team has been doing. So go ahead with that, with the letters we submitted just yesterday.
Well, it's hold on a second.
It's all related. Yeah.
Yes, it's all related. And I guess that's one good thing. We do work and it's presented and sometimes it just lays fallow. And then all of a sudden, something comes up and we have the information in hand to present or to people. And that's how some of the executive order got together. So back in November of last year, they asked, hey, if we had a chance to revamp federal law, what would you say? And then the recommendations was fed to the White House, and the White House worked on it and came up with the executive order 14248. So, and incorporated many portions of our of our recommendations, and you'll see a couple. So we got a urgent notice. Again, we had this data ready. They say, hey, we need some help. There's going to be a EAC standards meeting coming up, and we need to get our comments in by Wednesday. We got the notice on Tuesday. Hey, you got to submit this stuff tomorrow. And there were two things that they were looking for specifically. And one was amend the federal registration form to require documentary proof of citizen. Then the other one. We had already done this in a sense in our work, and we said, hey, EAC should change the federal postcard. Okay, so we went in and we created a letter basically stating the same thing. And I'm going to put these letters out there. We're not going to read through them or anything like that. But we talked about, and I'll say the first paragraph, Michigan Fair Elections supports full implementation of the Executive Order 14248, particularly changing the federal citizenship to include a statement of citizenship. The lack of this question has caused states great difficulties to properly maintain voter rolls. The Supreme Court ruled in 2013 Arizona versus Arizona Tribal Council that the 1993 NVRA requires states to accept and use the form created by the EAC that did not have the citizenship question. This means the EAC can change the form. And then, as Kristine talked about in her article earlier, we went through the situation in Michigan with the Chinese citizens voting and the difficulties. So we included a link to her article as well as to the Secretary of State's article about having non-citizens did indeed vote in November. So we sent that letter off. So again, the second portion, no state complies with what they call the Voluntary Voting System Guidelines, VVSG, and that they need to enhance the guidelines already. That's much more technical. But in our Title 52 recommendation, we said, hey, you got to prohibit use of certain machines, and you shouldn't have internet connectivity. From that, we went in and we created, and this ended up being a 5-page letter, basically saying we got to improve our technology. Our technology moves quickly, and the guidelines are outdated already. And we did a quick query of Grok about what these things were. And Grok came up with 6 vulnerabilities. And I'm only going to talk about 3 of them, or highlight 3 of them, 1, 2, and 6. And what VVSG 2.1 would fix. So let's go to point 1, incomplete vulnerability disclosure and management process. What that basically means, this is a black box. Our election management systems are run by outside vendors with the black box, and nobody knows what's going on inside. So what are they saying? Hey, it's got to be, you got to tell us how your code works. So that's how vulnerability number 1 was talked about. Vulnerability number 2, which is supply chain. We don't know where the stuff's coming from. Is it coming from hostile countries? Even in component levels. And what do they say? So strengthen the supply chain. And the last one, testing and certification. This is near and dear to my heart. We don't test well enough. When you go to a machine accuracy test, all they do is they feed in a whole bunch of ballots, and then they see if the ballots totals match up to what was fed in. That's not really testing the system front end to back end. That's just saying, hey, I can read paper and I can spit out a result. You need to enhance it. And my personal opinion is that there should be an outside firm that audits these software and these testings. And like in the electrical industry back in the day, there was an outside firm called Underwriter Laboratories, or UL, if you will, and they tested things to industry standards. And if it passed, you got the seal of approval. So something similar to that to voting systems. And finally, their perspective and a conclusion. And I just want to talk about the highlighted part. The EAC reliance on voluntary compliance and the slow pace of updates took 15 years from 1.0 to 2.0, suggests that 2.1 has got to be quicker. It's got to move at the pace of technology and keep pace with the upcoming threats. So again, Michigan Fair Elections, we do a lot of work. We create reports. Sometimes you don't get immediate feedback, but all our work eventually is useful for something. And this is a prime example. They would put an urgent call out for action, and Michigan Fair Elections stepped up immediately, and we were able to send 2 letters to the EAC per the Election Integrity Network's request. Any questions?
Anyone with questions, just go ahead and speak right up. I don't see your hand. All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Jeff.
Well, I would just say, I mean, I think it is awesome that MFEI was able to respond so quickly, so thoroughly on such short notice. I mean, that's just that. And Jeff, as you point out, having that whole backlog of where we've already given this a great deal of thought, so that not we, but you guys have all, so that you know, if you get 24 hours notice, you're able to respond. I mean, I'm amazed. That's great.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. This audit team is fantastic. And to Jeff's earlier point that sometimes things lay dormant, this team worked on an extensive audit report of Michigan and its non-compliance actually with Help America Vote Act grant funds in receiving those funds because the state was about to be audited. And they did a great job of putting together a report and filing it with the Election Assistance Commission. It went nowhere, but it didn't go nowhere because a friend of ours, Patrick Colbeck, looked at it. He was very impressed with it. He gave it to Mike Lindell, who walked it into the White House. And then, you know, about a year later, we see our recommendations coming up in the executive order in a significant extent, to a significant extent. So it's just very, it's inspiring to see that the good work that we're doing is having an effect and will continue to have an effect. So thank you for everybody's contributions. Okay.
Patrice,
yes, go ahead.
real quick, I would recommend recycling a report somehow to refresh, especially for new members.
Oh, that's a good idea. For anyone who would like to see this report, it's if you go to myfairelections.org, which is our website, we have a library up top, and you could just go into the library and scroll down to the EACOIG report. So that's kind of a hard name to remember, but it's called EACOIG. I think it's the request for audit assessment. Thank you. Thanks a lot, Frederick. Appreciate that. Okay. Any other hands up? Speak up if you do. All right. Thanks. Next up is Phani Mantravadi. Most of us know him for Check My Vote. He's been on our program a lot of times. He's very knowledgeable. He's a true patriot. And he has a lot to show us today. So Phani, take it away.
Thank you, Patrice. Thank you. And nice to see you all. Hi, Jeff. So I have been mainly focused, as you all know, a couple of months back, Justin Benson came out and said she'd be 300,000, some north of 300,000 registrations in April. So we've been tracking that. And on the Michigan voting dashboard, could you please show the screenshot that I sent to you this morning, Patrice, or if someone has access to it, they can show it, the NVRA number that they were going to purge this month, and it shows the exact count of the number of registrations in the voter rolls as of, I think, yesterday. But that number is kind of 8.2 million. So the Michigan's SOS Gov website shows there is 8.2 million registrations as of today. We get to see, according to the April 1st voter roll, there is 8.5 million. And that's what the screenshot essentially shows. If you can't get it, that's fine. You know, those are the numbers in the screenshot. So apparently, yeah. So 300,000, yes. So that number, 8.195 million is what the voter roll consists as of today, apparently, but we get our roll on the May 1st. So we'll be able to see that number kind of match, hopefully, you know, what they give us in the May voter roll. So, but a few things here is that 300,000 moved, but the original number on this dashboard in December was slated for cancellation in 2025, which they don't have it anymore here, but that was 564,000. They later brought it down to 368,000, I think, around that number, 364, 368,000. And the differential between April 1st number 8.5 million to 8.195 million is like 305,000. So there is still about 65,000 not accounted for. That's the observation that one of our volunteers made, Mark Waite. Thank you, Mark, for making that observation. So we'll be keeping a close eye on see like which are those 65,000, why they have not been removed in April, and why did the number go down from 500,000 to whatever the number lower is right now. So anyway, so that's remains to be seen. Once we get our May voter roll, we'll be able to reconcile all of that. So that's one thing we're working on. That's the all under the NVRA umbrage. And a few other things with Check My Vote. Speaking of May 1st, we'll also be launching the new Check My Vote on that day. And we have cool features now that would save me time, because a lot of volunteers have been requesting county-wide reports of voter data reports at county level. The website currently, the old version, I want to call it the old version, as it exists, only allowed you to download jurisdiction level. But I have written a program to make county level downloads possible. The only reason it wasn't there was because it would chew up server processing and bring my server to the knees. You know, if people put in a Wayne County and Oakland County, done, my server is dead. So I wrote a throttler program to kind of do that, but it'll take a day before the file gets generated, not like 15 minutes like it used to be. So that's the other update. There's a couple more things in the website right now. A lot of research has been going on in the duplicate names, because Justin Benson a couple of months ago came out, and not a couple of months, as part of opposing the SAVE Act, she went out and said, we're going to, because of what we're doing, because of the SAVE Act, the married women who change their names would be disenfranchised, or who don't know how to change their name get disenfranchised, or whatever she was trying to say. But we have found so many examples of people with different last names, the same first name, and the same year of birth at the same address, living with one guy. I mean, go figure, right? So that is essentially a situation where you have the name change occur and you have two registrations in the voter rolls. And there's so many examples in there, which is kind of flies in the face of the argument that Justin Benson was making to oppose the SAVE Act. So we do want to disenfranchise non-existing voters. That's my position. You want to disenfranchise fake voters. You don't want to disenfranchise real legal voters. You do not want to do that, but you do want to remove registrations that should not belong because they're a duplicate. So that duplicate button will be there at all county levels. You'll be able to see which are the duplicates that have been identified. And that's a growing number, because that involves a bit of research going into ancestry.com. And, one of our volunteers from Kent County, and, they're doing some great work, and it's trickling in. We've completed 43 counties of research. Now we're moving into the bigger counties here, and it's meticulous. The second one is deceased button. Again, that's also meticulous research. You'd have to go to the find a grave and, actually pull in evidence and then call it deceased at some point. And we have that button also showing up in Check My Vote with the new version. And this screenshot is also taken from the new version. So this bar graph you were seeing here just kind of shows how many are, as of April 1st in the voter roll, is 8.5 million. The differential is 305. We'll see if those are gone. All right, so I think these are the big items that I wanted to hit on for today. But May 1st, look forward to getting the new website out. And lastly, and thank you, Patrice, for saying the word patriot. That brings to mind my citizenship. I just started the process of applying for my U.S. citizenship, and I should be getting it in 6 months, and I'll be voting in the midterms of 2026. So that's going on too. Yeah.
Well, that's wonderful, Phani. Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
Look at all the hand claps you're getting. Everybody's applauding.
Oh, sweet. I love it. Thank you.
All right. Well, thanks a lot for joining us, Phani. Appreciate it. And we appreciate all you're doing. Appreciate your great work. All right. Now.
Thank you. Happy to work.
Phani, will you hang on the line?
Yeah.
Don't go away because while I've got you, you have been nominated by a whole bunch of people for our All-Star Award.
Oh.
And so rather than waiting till the end when we might lose you, I'd like to proudly award you our All-Star Award for the week. And thank you so much for your wonderful work. Phani has been, as people who may not know, he founded or co-founded Check My Vote. He works full time. The reason he's in his car is because he has to leave his office to come out and do a phone call like this because he's working. So he works very hard. He's got a wonderful family. He has a son who's about to go to college, I think, this fall. So he's a hardworking man with 3 children, right? Is it 3? Am I counting right?
Yes, 3 children. Yep. And my son is not this year. Next year he'll be going to college. This year is in the junior. So next year he'll be senior. So.
Oh, good. I thought he looked so young. I couldn't believe he was a senior. Well, good. Yes. So anyway, Phani does fantastic work. He works with data in his paid job. And he also then is an expert really in working with technology. So we're very grateful to have you and to be able to work with you, Phani. Your Check My Vote is the heart and soul of our Souls to Roll program. So you will be receiving a letter from Michigan Fair Elections, and you'll also be receiving a challenge coin. So thank you so much for your help.
Thank you. I'm so humbled, and thank you to everybody who thought of me for to be nominated. And I thank you very much. This can't happen without you all. Obviously, you're all a team. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, now Davey and Sheree Ritchie are here to give us a legislative update, and there's a lot happening in Lansing, I'm happy to say. So go ahead, Dee, are you leading off, or Sheree? Whatever.
Dee's leading off. Thank you very much, Patrice. So my part of our legislative update is Patrice received an invitation to meet with Representative Joseph Fox, who is the vice chair of the House Election Integrity Committee and works closely with the chair, Rep. Smith. Rep. Fox is also a pure election integrity advocate, and he's demonstrated himself over the last couple of months by posing really great statements disguised as rhetorical questions in support of all of our election integrity presentations that have been going on. So we had a quick 30-minute window. We were able to gain credibility with Rep. Fox. This is the first time that we had met. Patrice, Sheree Ritchie, and myself represented MFEI and PIME. We were able to establish a rapport and really open up another door to our legislative wing. And it was really a good start. And we have an open invitation to come back and speak with Rep. Fox. So that's all positive. So really quickly, we were able to cover 4 of our top MFEI PIME issues, which included HB 4983, which is going into effect June 31st this year, which will enable all of Michigan agencies effectively to become get out the vote centers. But more egregiously, we know that everyone who applies for a driver's license or interacts with the Secretary of State's office are automatically registered to vote. And June 31st, this bill will require anyone who is registered who is not a citizen to prove that they are a non-citizen to get off of the voter rolls. So this is incredibly egregious. We were able to introduce this idea and kick around a couple of ideas on how to oppose this. The other issues we talked about were ranked choice voting and SAVE Act. And we were able to create a greater awareness within his office of how important these things are from an election integrity perspective. As mentioned, we have an open invitation for a return visit, and we will be following up with Rep. Fox with the report that Patrice presented to him, which highlights a number of about 20 top election integrity issues, but itemized by the legal violations that our Secretary of State and other Michigan officials are egregiously offending. Those legal citations are stated as MCL violations, HAVA violations, NVRA violations, federal violations, and this is the real meat of the Executive Order 14248, which is preserving election integrity, where EO 14248 is really demanding that our states follow the law. We've been able to cite where the law has not been followed on several of the top egregious election integrity violations, including voter rolls, FOIA obstruction, and many others. So over to you, Sheree, for the rest of the legislative update.
Thank you, Dee. That was great. And yes, that was a very productive meeting with Rep. Fox. And, you know, a year ago, he's on the EI committee now with the House, as you stated. But a year ago, when I was attending a Tuesday morning hearing, Rep. Fox showed up. He came to hear and see what was going on in that committee. So he had, you know, an election integrity interest before he was even on the committee. So you don't often see that, some other representatives just coming to a meeting to learn what's going on. So he's going to be a great advocate and assistant to us. And he also shared a couple of contacts that he knows in his district that, to our awareness, are not involved with MFEI yet. So I contacted those two people after our meeting that day. So hopefully we'll expand even more with some patriots in that area. So I'm going to report to you all on two things that just recently happened within the last 5 or 6 days. I'll start with the hottest of the hot. On Tuesday of this week, our friend Representative Jay DeBoyer issued a formal subpoena to the Department of State, Jocelyn Benson, for her refusal to release to the legislature clerk election training materials. Rep. Smith has been requesting these materials from the Department of State since the first of the year, and to no avail. They have not even responded to these requests. And Rep. Smith has spoken about it on the House floor numerous times. So finally, the power of subpoena was voted on and given to Rep. DeBoyer to issue that subpoena, which was done this past Tuesday. So I wrote down a quote that I found from Rep. Smith this morning. Benson's refusal to issue these documents or release these documents raises the question, is there something so damning in these training materials that Secretary Benson is willing to violate a subpoena over it now? So we shall see what happens with that. We'll keep our eyes on it. The other item to report is last Friday, April 18th, the Board of State Canvassers had a very important meeting with very important topic. And they were discussing and voting to approve language for a citizen petition to enforce what is already the law, which is to prove citizenship before registering to vote. And this last January, Rep. Brian Posthumus introduced a bill or a resolution called HJRB, which we've talked about, House Joint Resolution B, which was to accomplish the same thing. But since the legislature is split now, The chances are challenging for it to ever get through there. So a citizen initiative was taken upon, or was launched by the Committee to Protect Voters' Rights. And at the Board of State Canvassers hearing last Friday, which turned out to be about a 5-hour meeting, minus a lunch break, it was a full room. It was a packed house. There were several people on this call actually right now that were at the meeting as well to see what went down. When it was all said and done, with some amendments to the language, the Board of State Canvassers did approve the petition language, the 100-word summary, which was actually 96 words. So to my understanding, that is the beginning of the clock countdown for the 180 days to collect the needed signatures for that petition to be able to be on the November 2026 ballot. So 460,000, give or take, signatures are required. So that's going to be exciting to see that launch too. So that I could add a couple other things about it as far as what we heard as far as opposition comments. Update on petition launch believed to be May 15th. Thank you, Dee. But I think the 180-day countdown began on Friday the 18th. So the complaints, the opponents to this legislation were kind of humorous to hear. One of the big objections we heard numerous times was about the cost to implement this, providing hardship benefits to people, that this is a hardship to get a document and it will be at the state cost. Well, I don't know if those people are aware of how much money was spent over the last 2 years passing legislation to enact Proposal 2. I mean, millions of dollars in new legislation in the last 2 years to enact Proposal 2. So I don't think this is going to cost millions of dollars to the state. They were also complaining that this was going to be a hardship to clerks, to the Secretary of State and clerks, providing them extra work. Well, again, all the legislation from the past 2 years provided a lot of extra work for the clerks, with 9 days, up to 14, up to 21 days of in-person voting and different machines to have to use for those days than what's used on election day. So all of their complaints were, humorous to me. But anyway, that's all I have. Any questions?
Are there any hands up?
Yes.
Oh, yes,
Fred
2 hands
speaking.
up. Go ahead, Fred, and then Kristine after you.
So I am working the Axe My Tax petition, and it is a 180-day rolling window, not specific to the calendar window. It must be a continuous 180 days. For instance, Axe My Tax initiated their start April 1st, although their language was approved in January. Now, should we have a slow start and require a little extra gathering of signatures at the end of the 180-day rolling window, we could ignore any petitions gathered in April and then add in October. So it's a 180-day rolling window. Thank you.
Okay, go ahead, Kristine.
So, Sheree, what the subpoena? How long does the Department of State have to respond to that, subpoena of documents?
Oh, that's a good question. I do not know, but I can find out.
Okay. The other thing I want to mention, and Jackie may mention this, but I just want to mention that in May, at the state canvassers meeting, language for ranked choice voting may be on their agenda. So it's kind of, and I could look quickly and see what that date is. But we'll let you know. I mean,
it's May 16th, Friday, May 16th.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
I have it on my calendar. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The reason we suspect it may be that date is they're already making plans to collect signatures on Labor Day, Memorial Day weekend, which is the following is the end of the month there. So they weren't on the Board of State Canvassers meets once a month. So it's either next month or they're going to try to go without getting board approval before they get the petitions out, which is kind of risky.
Ooh.
Go ahead,
Well,
Jeff. Oh,
I
go
don't
ahead.
think they even count if they do that. I don't think those signatures even count if they do it before approval.
Oh yeah, they do, as long as they approve the language. But if they don't approve the language, they're back to the drawing board.
Got